Welcome to Frisella's All Around the Yard. I am your host, Tony Frisella Jr. With me today, we have our design center manager, Justin Verbryck, with us to talk to you about landscape design trends that we see coming into 2021. So, Justin, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be on the podcast. A lot exciting things for us to talk about here today with, I think, what's happened in the world the past year, how people are transitioning in their lives. And, it's been a dramatic year for everyone. So I think I've seen that translate into how people choose now to spend their time, invest their money, and invest their time also. So I think that's translating in all portions of their life, which we have the unique opportunity of the clients we work with of being able to interact with them really on that.
Well, I mean, not just in the landscape, but the garden center. I mean, it's been absolutely insane seeing how people just never, I don't want to say didn't appreciate, but I think they have more of an appreciation for all the spaces that they're in every single day, whether it's in their home or it's even driving, just driving through the subdivision or driving through the neighborhood, driving to work, or, well, they weren't going to work last week, but just driving around town. And, but then looking at the yard, and especially if they got young kids, like I do, my poor wife had 3 at home, being able to get outside to something that was usable, and not just usable, but fun and an experience, some place you can go out and make memories, something that my father always talks about. And so, well, let's kind of go into, with what you're seeing this year, because, you guys aren't busy. You just kind of sit around the office, right? Yeah. I mean, what are some of the things you're seeing as from a design end that might be a little twist on what we normally see, or some unique things that you guys are playing around with right now?
Yeah, I mean, overall, over the past few years, I've definitely seen an uptick in outdoor spaces, if you want to just group it all into one. But I think that was really accentuated the past year, as you noted, with people, when you're in your home every day on top of each other, for those people that, worked from home the past year. And, that can be probably, beneficial in some senses and also can be stressful in others. So I think it makes parents be creative in the sense of how to come up with activities for their kids to do. But I also think it challenges homeowners to see how they interact with their space, maybe that they didn't think of previously. Now that you're in your house at different hours than what you're usually used to, what you're seeing, what you're not seeing, being at home now, a lot of people are transitioning to working at home. I've talked with many clients that they've started closing offices, just with seeing how things have transitioned over the past year, that they don't actually need those hard spaces. So a lot of people are working from home now. And so they're wanting to, whether it's interior or exterior, invest in their home more, for reasons that maybe weren't aware to them before.
Well, I mean, we're even seeing with some of the builders and the architects talking about, these houses that are in design are being redesigned because they have the home office in mind. Mm-hmm. And then even enhancing some of the traditional interior entertainment spaces, such as your living room, dining room, basements. And we've seen COVID happen towards the end of winter last year. And then, through the middle of summer, in the hot months, nobody's supposed to be outside, but yet they don't want to be inside. So the outdoor rooms are pergolas, but even bringing the outside in through houseplants. You've seen tropicals, succulents just skyrocket in popularity with the rare plants and those kind of things, and bringing the outside in. But then we always look at is what are the views from the inside of the house that will take your attention beyond the 4 walls of the house, which is kind of a neat thing. You talk about, looking at some of the spaces that they didn't realize maybe the true potential of some of the spaces, which is kind of an interesting thought of, is what is the true potential of a space?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I think just overall people have had more time to think about their homes with really being in them probably more than what they're usually used to. But I also think it kind of goes back to people connecting more with nature and outdoors again. I think as people and as a culture, we've kind of like drifted away from that. Like you talk about a lot with growing up, obviously you had the opportunity to work with Tony at the farm and grow up on that end, being heavy on the outdoors where I think in a time sense, during that time period, everything was more pushed outside because we didn't have all the technology. And so people had to get outside and interact. And that's what you made fun, growing up, it's playing street hockey. It's like anytime I had
you were playing hockey, I was just building, I was tearing stuff up.
Yeah, making ramps. But I think we had that, initial push of all these new technologies coming out. I think people, you're captivated towards those new items, which, draw us inside more at the end. But now I think with having basically been forced to be inside, you have the opposite happening of people wanting to get outside again. Even myself, recently running a lot, and this time of year, it's great for me just to be able to actually enjoy the spring. Since we're always just go, it's hard to really kind of sit back and appreciate it sometimes. So whether I'm doing my run in the evening or walking or something, I'm able to kind of like slow down a little bit more and actually appreciate magnolia blooms and the dogwoods about the blood, the forsythia going, and like really kind of just like take in the natural surrounding around me. Cause I like to interpret nature when I'm designing. And so being able to like take different paths when I'm running and look at either homes or natural environments and be able to replicate that in landscape, to me, I find very encouraging and helps me think outside of my usual bounds. But circling back to kind of the outdoor spaces, I think you get this whole evolution now of people wanting to get back outside and realizing kind of maybe where things have been missed, and be able to create, as a family, these moments and memories within your own home rather than having to maybe travel somewhere. So I know I've had several clients over the past year that had plans to make these big trips that obviously were delayed or canceled due to COVID, and they use those funds to invest in their home, whether it's indoor or outside. A client, they've got kids in town here, all older with grandkids, and they were going to do, a 3-month European tour, and that all got canceled. So they did a really nice outdoor patio feature and pergola so that they can have everyone over and be able to entertain and enjoy each other at their home rather than going out. So,
well, I mean, that plays into, some of these pool companies are 2 years out or more on installations, just because everybody's like, forget to get a pool. Well, then, by the time they get their pool done, pandemic's gonna be over. but it's just, we've definitely seen a big push. Let's kind of jump back a couple years. You and I were in Toronto, Canada, together, and we were up there for a design conference, and we did a tour around the city, the suburbs, if you will, and some of the outerlying subdivisions, and really got to see some pretty interesting landscapes and what they do to our friends up north. And I'm not gonna try to do a Canadian A thing, but hey, but there was some really cool stuff up there, And I know you and I traveled a lot, actually, together. I think about it, and I know there's a lot of ideas that when we go through some of these arboretums or the botanical gardens or the different conferences or different networks that we're able to get together with some of the companies, even. We always come back with just kind of a revigorated perspective, I guess, if you will. And one of the things that when we were looking up there is all like the Corten steel work is.
Yeah, that's my first thought.
Yeah. So you want to elaborate, because I know we're seeing some of that starting to really not take hold, but really start to see some elements of that here in St. Louis. But you want to touch on any of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think from a design sense, with us being located kind of in the middle of the country, I think we're kind of last, to pick up maybe some of the new design trends, if you will. Obviously, usually the coast are a little bit more progressive in their design sense, and then you kind of see that get filtered into the Midwest, I think, from whether it's people moving from the coast in or a secondary home that they have here that they're wanting to replicate something that they have similar in, whether it's Texas, California, Florida, but
or New York.
New York.
Moving on New York.
Yeah. But slowly those design trends are starting to move forward. And I think it all comes back to architecture, and in my mind, what our goal of landscape designers and architects are to complement the architecture of the home, not to overpower with what we're doing, but to complement what the architect's plan was for that home. And so you are starting to see more contemporary houses and more modern homes coming on the market and getting built and designed. So that comes in. That's interesting in my mind, being kind of the design sense that I think myself and kind of us as a company have more the naturalistic feel, the natural stone, kind of the soft textures, smooth lines, to where you can completely do a 180 and have your 90 degrees, your hard edges, very linear. So I like the challenge of being able to kind of completely look at something totally different from what we used to and use different materials. Clients have a totally different mindset of what they're wanting with these projects. So, it allows us to really create something, totally different than what this market's used to seeing. And then again, that kind of radiates out to where
not a standard Midwestern, landscape sort of thing, or your typical big box store plantings. It's something that's going to be unique. And the interesting thing, this goes more into, what makes a good design. My father used to always say is, if you just put one large tree and everything else can be small, it at least looks more like a mature landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Or, instead of this columnar maple, can we do a columnar paradia? Something just gives it a little bit of flair. It doesn't have to be this crazy, out of the, I'm not going to say eyesore, but oddity of a landscape. It just needs to be a little bit unique, just to give it its own personality, its own flair to the landscape. And that's where I think, we're always challenging ourselves to not, one up each project, but just to do something where we can one up it from what you traditionally would see in a landscape, or whether it's a front yard or a backyard. Yeah.
I mean, speaking for myself and the rest of the team, I enjoy what I do because it allows me to express my creativity, work, it blends kind of all my favorite things of working with people, creating art in the form of landscape for people and working with plants. And so I get to kind of marry those three things together. But each canvas, if you will, each client, each property is a new opportunity to complete something completely new than what you did on your last project. And so that's what I try to focus on is creating a unique experience and unique design catered to that client or that project. And so it's creating, whether it's a unique tree or plant in that project or a unique material selection, but coming up with that staple, if you will, or focal point for a project that really kind of puts the feather in the hat, I think is unique. And so the modern, we've had some, obviously, a few projects with the Core 10 that we were trying to work through. So there's the ebbs and flows of you try stuff and it doesn't always work out. But, for me, that's a process of bettering ourselves and bettering the company and the industry. Is you're going to find out what works, what doesn't work, but, doing the right thing at the end of the day, and being able to challenge ourselves so that we're coming up with creative solutions for clients.
So when it comes to let's just talk about a traditional front yard. I saw a couple of designs and photos and some things that you post on your Instagram. These aren't your multi-million dollar homes, but they're just want something that's a little bit unique, because you go to a standard subdivision, it's going to have a typical 90-degree sidewalk then it's going to run, perpendicular into the driveway, and it's like, we can only do so much with this. Is the sidewalk sacred, or can we do something with that? I see a lot of that with your stuff. So can you talk a little bit about some of the maybe unique things that you've done on just I don't want to call it a standard home. That's not the right way to say it, but like a traditional home, some things that you've done just to give it a little bit more personality.
Yeah. The best, if I'm able to start kind of fresh with an existing home as far as the front landscape's concerned, like Tony said, a lot of times we're stuck with a poorly designed sidewalk or entry to the home, if you will. So to me, that's your first ability to create a new experience for how you're progressing to the front of the home, or how you're interacting with that front side. So for me, it's utilizing different natural stones or paper combinations and a creative shape for that walkway that makes sense with how. So it's still functional. You're not making it, you're having to go out of your way to get to the front door, but through creating, a nice curve or kind of undulated sidewalk, you can create a new experience for how that homeowner or people coming to the house interact with the front part of the home. And then through that, on the front side, you can come in with the cool plantings to help kind of soften that up. Like, I'm just finishing up a project out in Chesterfield now, to where, again, just a very kind of standard front walkway, but we broke it up. Elevation was weird. They had the existing sidewalk going up to the top of the front porch. So that realistically needed to be taken down, so that we had a step off of the front porch to the correct grade. From there, we were able to run a new paper walkway. We did a larger landing. So you came off the front porch, you have a nice open landing. You're not stuck on, a 3 or 4 foot.
Feel like you're going to step off into the landscape.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they were doing previously. So another thing is scale or size. So having a walkway that's scaled in proportion to the home and also to the respective bounds. So standard, at least 4 foot. If it's sizable enough, I like to do 6 foot. It just creates a more inviting entry to the home. But again, you want to use that in proportion to the house and the property. You don't want to put a 6 foot sidewalk when you have, 10 foot between the driveway and the front entry. But, creating that new entry, we did 2 natural stone steps paired with some unilock pavers, and then created a nice transition from the driveway up to that front porch. And then we're able to create some nice curved beds to help soften those two, and put in some nice mature trees around. So we took out, everything that was already there, but coming back in with some new material, it makes it feel like it's already been there for a few years.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where they'll have this 2-story brick house, and it might have white columns in the front of it, or whatever, something along those lines. But the sidewalk is 4 foot off the front porch, and you're literally walking along the front of the home. You can't you can't take in the appeal of what the beauty of the home. And where if you could take the walk out and actually place it properly a little further out into the yard, it doesn't mean you have to have all landscape bed between the house and the bed. You can have swoops of sod that come in still, and it's set up in a way that maintenance is easy. You can just go right over the sidewalk with a mower and still mow everything. But when you turn or curve into the front door, you get to take in the entire front. And it creates a whole new experience, appreciation for the architecture. But then only that, the landscape, this lead in, if there's a slight, my dad says, meander up to the front door, it's the first indication of you're about to experience something great on the inside, or it's about to see something unique. You're about to see what's on the outside, the detail, the design aspect. You're going to see all that same thing, and then plus some more on the inside of the home. With it could be the furnishings, it could be the paint choices on the wall, whatever the case it could be, which is pretty cool. It's the lead in, basically.
Yep.
Is there any other interesting projects? Anything interesting as far as like some unique things that you yourself are doing, or that you might have saw or seen some of our other designers working on or implementing into their designs that might stem into some trends that you're seeing or whatnot?
So playing kind of off the outdoor features or outdoor space, water and fire it's a natural blend of.
It's like Don now.
Yeah. A natural blend of two, earth-given things that we can interact with. But utilizing those in design can be a unique feature. I'm thinking of Brian's project down the lake. They've got an infinity edge pool. And generally what you'd see is people, I take that back. That one's not infinity edge, but they have the ability to make an infinity edge pool. This goes down to the bottom of the lake. They got a pool on the backside of the house. So, you could have an infinity edge to where that's all cascading down the backside of the pool, looking out the lake. Very cool. But in this instance, Brian decided to have fountains at the base of where that foundation wall for the pool would be shooting up. So we could light those fountains from the base and have that water shooting up to the top elevation of your pool. So it kind of shows you that there's a lower side and you're getting a different element than what you did. So that comes back into creating kind of those unique experiences per project that, is specific to whether it's a client's needs or the ability of what you have to do on that site.
You get movement also.
Yeah.
Because at nighttime, you're not seeing, unless I'm thinking of wintertime, I'm sorry, but like where there's no leaves in the trees to see much movement. But in the summertime or this time of the year when the leaves are coming out, you've got water fountains coming up above the deck level of the pool. They're lit up, they're illuminated at night. And because at nighttime too, there's nothing behind you. In most cases, there's not much behind you that's illuminated. And so it's creating this really kind of interesting, still the sound of water, but yet there's movement. And we talk about movement with grasses a lot. This is kind of the same thing, but in a different way. But you're right, a unique feature.
Yep. And outside, going back to, again, outdoor space, I've seen a lot of people wanting to do outdoor kitchens, outdoor structures, somewhere to where they can, again, entertain outside or have a space to come outside and hang out with the family, cook dinner, and I think just be in their yard, around their home more. But, within that, it's taking the time to understand and think creatively about how you can make that feature specific to that project. So it's not just, hey, I did this outdoor kitchen on the last one, we can do this one for you again. It's figuring out a unique feature of whether it's the masonry work that you do on that project, being able to create different elevations within that outdoor kitchen area, from the bar heights or how the grill and the rest of the kitchen features are integrated. Creating something unique to that, to me is very interesting. And I think helps, again, make those projects significant and memorable for the client.
A couple of things going out with some of the guys as well. Last point I'll make on this is, they want the outdoor kitchens, and sometimes, like thinking of a project down the hill right now, they also want it though to maintain enough yard space for their kids, which some of these postage stamp lots can be quite a challenge. But I think at the end of the day, we definitely pulled off an amazing project out there. It was a unique. It was one of the first. I can't remember the name of it, but types of pergolas that we put out there. It's all metal, more of a modern feel to it. One Preston's.
Yeah,
and
structure.
But it's got the louvers on top. Yeah, that you can. Well, this is a hand crank, but you can also get them with a motor, so you can even make it a solid roof, or you can open up to more just open air, if you will. And where there's the TVs on it, or they have a TV, like a retaining wall with a TV on the retaining wall. And then they got the barbecue pit on it, and it's just a really, really, really neat setup. But yet was able to maintain enough yard space for the kids, and they even got the evergreen screens going on the sides to block out the neighbor. You're on top of yourself down there. I lived down there for a little while. I know how. I need a lot of screening going on down there.
Yeah, I wash my dishes and wave at my neighbors on their back patio. So
I said last thing, but that's another point is because people are home so much, they're actually realizing how much people actually can see into their homes.
Yeah.
And how much they can actually see into their homes. And they're like, yeah, wow, we gotta put a tree here. We gotta block this. Like, what can we do with this? So with some of the new homes, that's always the interesting thing. They want to start with something just to get by. But then they always want us to live in the house for 6 to 8 months or a year, and then revisit it once they were able to see how they actually interact in the home, interact with the landscape, how they actually feel about the driveway pulling in, how they, what views they really start to kind of catch their eye as far as they don't want to see, or they enjoy, they don't want to block, or when they go out in the yard and they realize that they're, Bob, the neighbor, has a beer in his hand on his patio every day at 3:30 when they get home, and Bob's waving, they get sucked into an hour-long conversation. Well, they want to put a tree screen there or something along those lines. I mean, again, especially this past year, a lot of those situations came up a lot more. So
absolutely.
Well, hey man, I really appreciate you coming on, making the time. I know you guys are just ridiculously busy. We talked about this morning, so I appreciate making the time. I know everybody listening, we can definitely, hopefully grasp a lot of different things that we're doing and that they can also do in their yard. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email us, help@frisellanursery.com. You can email us podcast@frisellanursery.com. You can check out all of our Instagram at Frisella Landscape Group for everything Justin and our team is doing on the construction side, at Frisella Nursery for everything garden center related. You can also reach Justin at his handle. You want to throw your handle out there?
Yeah, I believe it's J Verbryck, V as in Victor, ERB as in boy, RYCK.
You can check him out. Justin's been doing an awesome job posting stories about projects of his that are about to start, are in the middle of, or have just been completed the last couple of years. So definitely check out the stuff that he's doing. He does amazing work. I'm not just saying that because he's on our team. It's the truth. He's somebody I trust with a lot of very unique projects that fall in our lap. So thank you to everybody for listening. Feel free to please subscribe, share with anybody that you might find interest in this episode or any other episode. And we look forward to talking to you guys next week. Appreciate you.